Hi, folks.
Hey,
Hey, how's it going?
good. You?
Good stuff. Yeah, excellent. I'll be in front of the camera very shortly. I'm just getting myself a pint of beer, as I do for every call. Just get myself a couple of crates of beer before I get started.
Is that your fifth today, mate, or are you just
Yeah.
a bit late?
Yeah. Hi, folks. Hey, listen, Dan. Before we get into it, Dan, you're absolutely forbidden to mention the cricket. So just moving swiftly on. Okay, we just leave it there, mate. Yeah.
Say again. It cut out. I missed all of that.
Okay. No mention of the cricket. We have no interest in cricket.
Oh, right.
Just
Well,
moving on.
It's all right, mate. You might be saved. It's been pouring cats and dogs for the last 6 hours, and it may very well rain the next 3 days.
you've got to take your hat off. Golden duck. Has that ever been done before? I mean,
Once before, apparently.
fuck's sake.
I mean, Steve Harmison once bowled a ball on the first ball of a test, didn't it? Except it wasn't a golden duck. It went for 4-leg bias.
I've been in
Remember
that.
that?
No.
I don't actually.
That was in Brisbane. It must have been maybe 8 years ago. The first ball of the Brisbane Test, first test of the series. Steve Harmison bowled it so far down the leg side, the wicketkeeper missed it, and it went for four-leg bias.
I don't
And that
remember
was was the joke. So England lost 5-0, and the joke
Oh,
was
actually.
that set the tone for the whole summer.
Right, Jeremy's meant to be joining us. I'm sure he will. So you guys good to go?
Yeah,
I think it's 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock's very civil. I don't know
Yeah. What time is it there, buddy? Dan, what time is it there?
It's 1 a.m.
Well done,
Hey, Nick, that's what you call commitment,
isn't it?
eh?
Hey.
So when I call you, Nick, at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you're going, bloody hell, Terry, it's a bit early. Let's have less of that, shall we?
I'm not going to say anything. I could give you so many answers to that. I won't. I'll be nice. Oh dear. It's a lovely day here though. Bloody lovely.
Is it really?
Ah, I went for a lovely walk this morning. Good to do that, isn't it? Every day. Get out.
Yeah. Take a break from the screen.
What's the temperature there?
Oh, you don't want to know, mate. It's like 5 degrees. 5 degrees, in case you misheard that.
I'm prepping myself for January. I knew it was going to be cold, but
Well, it's not cold for us, Dan. This is summer for us.
Well, the weird thing is, like Saturday, it's going to be 15, right?
Is it really?
Yeah. It's all over the shop. You let people in.
Yeah. Here's Mr. Merrick.
How are we doing?
Hello, mate. Yeah, good,
Hey,
thanks. How are you? You have a good time,
good.
mate?
Yeah, really good.
Excellent.
Hey,
Excellent.
hey, Mike. Good trip?
Yeah, really good, mate. Thank you. Exhausting. I haven't recovered yet, but yeah. It's nice to be out and about, actually meeting with people and having proper conversations rather than over talking to my computer. That was brilliant. Really good.
Excellent. You haven't had to quarantine or anything then?
I had to have I do a PCR test on Saturday morning, and then quarantined till I got the result through. But the result came through about midday on Sunday.
Right.
So, no, not bad. And it was negative as well, so which I expected.
Yeah.
Was it busy?
It wasn't as busy as when I went 2 years ago, which actually was to my advantage because it meant that people who were on the stands had more time to talk to me rather than talk to customers. So that worked to my advantage, which was really good.
Good stuff. Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing about that, Mike.
Yeah, it's good.
Jeremy just coming in.
I'm always intrigued how you manage to speak to people at a stand when you say you do recruitment, because they normally just go, not now. See you later.
I don't typically actually stand when I'm on sales calls or other calls. Just for that very reason. Plus I type a lot, so it's like the stand's a little wobbly.
Okay.
But, yeah, this
Hello,
is
mate.
just... Go ahead, Terry.
How are you, buddy?
I'm good, thank you. How about you?
Yeah, very good. Very good.
James, I'm gonna have to go live now. 1 minute past.
Okay.
There's only 6 people in the waiting room now, so I'm sure more will trickle in. So I'll sort of delay the start. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to this week's live session. I'm going to get started in just a minute. Just want to check that all the sound and audio, or sound and visuals, are working properly. So if you can see in here, it's okay. Just give us a hello in the chat box. Should be able to see Terry, Dan, Nick, me, Mike. Jeremy's video is off. We'll put on in a minute. If you can see that, just give us a hello in the chat box. Let us know, and guys, if you can speak as well, just make sure your mics are working.
Hi, guys.
Ideally, one at a time.
Hello.
Good morning or good afternoon,
Hi.
wherever you are in the world.
Awesome.
Hey guys.
Yes, if you're here, it's okay. Just give us a hello in the chat box, and we're going to get started in just a few seconds.
The three amigos, but there's 6 of them.
Awesome. Awesome, good stuff. Again, if you're just coming in, just give us a hello in the chat box. You'll be able to see and hear us. Just want to check the technology before we dive in. But we're going to get started in just a second. Awesome. Good stuff. Good stuff. So, welcome everyone. It is 3 minutes past 3 on Thursday, the 9th of December, 2021. And yeah, for those of you that don't know, the theme for this month is Breakthrough Year. So what we've done over the next sort of few weeks, I think we've got one session left after this, we're going to be sort of bringing you sort of group panel calls where we interview some or several of our clients who have had breakthrough years in different ways. It could be because of revenue, could be in one way or another, they've transformed their business over the last 12 months, gone in a different direction. And we're going to be interviewing them, allowing you to ask them questions to find out what's worked for them. Everyone's got a slightly different spin on, we obviously give you the strategies, give you techniques. Everyone's got a different spin on how they use it and what's worked well for them. So we're going to do that today. And we have got Dan Smith, Nick Marag. How do you say last name, Nick?
Marangos, but Nick's fine.
And Jeremy Foley, who are going to be interviewing. Obviously, we've got Terry and Mike helping out with the questions as well. So as we go along, if you've got any questions, drop them in the chat box, and we'll pass them on to the guys. But yeah, Terry, hand over to you. But yeah, thanks for joining us, Dan, Nick, and Jeremy.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, great. Yeah, thank you ever so much, James. And again, just a massive thanks to Michelle and Inez for last week, because they shared their story, which was absolutely fantastic. And we got Don and Mike next week. I don't think they even know that they're doing it next week, but we're interviewing you two guys next week. So yeah, so this week, as Drew said, Dan Smith, Nick, and Jeremy, and they're going to share their journey. And look, the reason that we do this is, I've said it before, if you do what successful people do, you'll get what they've got. You'll see that these are just regular guys and they're going to share what's worked well for them, but also what hasn't worked so well. So look, you've got any questions about anything, feel free to ask. What we're going to do, we're going to ask them all the same question, and get their response. So I'm gonna kick it off. I'm going to start. I'll start with you, Nick, then Dan, and then Jeremy. So what I want first of all is just an overview, and let's go back to this time last year. Things were pretty shitty, for want of a better word. And in the UK, we were coming into our second lockdown. We were almost cancelling Christmas. We just come out of the first lockdown. There was some signs of hope, and then in the UK they announced second lockdown, and it was like, shit. Now what are we going to do? So just give us an overview of where you were November, December last year, first of all. So the question is an overview of where your business was at the end of November, December, what your frustrations, everything, and we'll take it from there. So first with you, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely. So we blanked. We hadn't done a deal in 5 out of the 12 months, which had never happened to me before in 20 years of recruitment. It was looking pretty poor. We'd done half the revenue we normally do. And I was at the crossroads, to be honest, didn't know how I was going to carry on doing recruitment. So it was when I started engaging with you guys and, we started talking about retainer, and I thought I've got to change. I've got to make it work. And retainer was the only solution I hadn't tried. So yeah, it was looking pretty awful, to be honest.
Yeah. Excellent. Thanks for that, Nick. Dan, where were you this time last year in terms of business?
It was pretty grim. I hadn't, so I only do retained search. I didn't have any work between probably April last year and December. So I was certainly by January, I was pretty close to pulling the pin, I would say. I sort of gave myself till the end of March, and then I was, pulling the pin on the business.
Really? I didn't know that. Okay, thanks for sharing that, Dan. Jeremy.
Yeah, so last year was definitely a difficult year. I had to leave my prior firm after 13 and a half years, stable income, but limited growth opportunity, and started my own firm in September. And so by this time last year, things were a bit rocky. I had basically kind of just done the same thing that I'd done my previous 13 years, which was go after contingent type business and perform the way that I did. I was lucky that I think maybe within the first 2 months, which would have been maybe November of last year, I had about 8 different searches. I had closed one full cycle deal, which again, as a contingent deal, was half upon acceptance, half upon start. So I had to complete the search in order to get paid. I know it was a pretty substantial fee. I think at the time it was about $40,000. But by December, I had 6 searches that all fell apart. And each of those 6 searches I actually had delivered, right? I had produced viable candidates. Some of them made it through significant interview stages. Others had made it to the offer stage, and things fell apart for whatever reason. But ultimately, of those 8 original searches, 6 of them fell apart due to no fault of my own. Some of that was due to the market here in the U.S. We had some parts of the country that were in heavy lockdown, or again, kind of like you guys in the UK, entering a second lockdown, if you will. Other parts of the country were free will, if you will. And so there was a lot of uncertainty and a bit of a roller coaster as far as up and down recruitment cycles were concerned. And unfortunately, I got the short end of the stick and lost out on 6 deals. And I said, literally, I was at a point where I literally could not afford to work on these deals without getting something out of them. And I had made a couple small engagement fees for 2 clients. I think it was $5,000 US, which is not much when you're looking at $30,000 or $40,000 fees, but it gave me a little bit of sense that I could probably continue that in the next year. But again, I just lost 6 deals, and it was like, okay, we're not really off to a good start. We got 1 deal in, we got a little bit of revenue, but where's the next deal going to come from, and the next and next? And it was a lot of really uncertainty and lean times, if you will.
Yeah. It reminds me, Drew and I were talking about one of the challenges with contingent. You've hit the nail on the head then, Jeremy, where through no fault of yours, you do the work. In your case, you're working on 6 jobs, and through no fault of your own, those deals are pulled. It reminds me of people that have got a gambling problem. And I knew a guy, Mike, who had a gambling problem, and he always said, this is my last bet, and then I'm going to win big on this one, and that'll be it. And of course, contingent recruiters very much the same. It's like, well, if I win this deal, and if I deliver on this deal, happy days. But as we all know, majority of contingent roles you work on, you're not going to fill. So thanks for sharing where you were. Staying with you, Jeremy, and I'll then come to Nick and Dan. What did you see as the challenges or the obstacles for the next 12 months ahead as we sat there in December in your case, 6 deals are just fallen through. What do you see your challenges were for the next 12 months?
Sure. I mean, the immediate challenge was, how am I going to survive? Yeah, how am I going to bring in revenue? How am I going to support, at that point, a very lean lifestyle? Certainly much leaner than I had been accustomed to for the previous 13 or so years. But more importantly, how was I going to avoid that contingency trap, right? Of I produce, but I'm not getting rewarded. I'm not getting compensated for my efforts and my work, even though it's what the client requested. So the challenge was, how do I go retained? I don't have any experience selling, real retained type searches. My impression of the market is that, retainers are dead. The market's been burnt on that almost nobody can sell them. And if you can, it's a once in a blue moon thing. And certainly would involve some gargantuan effort in order to make it happen. As involved as going out to meet with these people in person, which requires significant travel, expense, time, and then on top of that, you have to have the fancy presentation and delivery and all this stuff. And just, it almost seemed impossible. It's like, it's just not going to happen. I wanted to go that direction, but the path to that just seemed, again, nearly impossible. So that was definitely the major obstacle, was making that switch to retained. If it was possible, how was I going to do it?
Yeah, excellent. Thanks for that, Jeremy. Nick, what did you see as your challenges and obstacles ahead as you sat there in December last year?
I mean, I genuinely believe, before speaking to you, that actually retained in my world didn't exist. It just didn't. And I was pleasantly surprised, and I think it was, how was I going to engage with clients again without having time wasted? Like Jeremy, I had, a lot of tire kicking, I call it, people that were going to final stage and going, actually, we've changed our mind. And it was incredibly depressing, to be honest. So it was, how was I going to engage, make sure I get paid, but also re-enjoy recruitment, because I do love it. It is a great, I love it when it's working. And I think 12 months of being burnt was tough. So that was the only option, was retained. So it had to work. And I think, going through those dark periods made me really not give up. And I'm going to determinedly do it. And I think that was the thing I had to get over. So that was the difficulty, engaging with clients, I think.
Excellent. Thanks, Nick. And Dan, what did you see as the obstacles and challenges ahead?
Yeah, I would say for me, it was surviving initially and lead gen, building new clients. That was the priority when we first spoke, which was the end of January, I think.
Yeah. And the challenge with surviving, if your goal is just to survive, you probably will just survive. But none of us set up in business just to survive. We've all been there, myself included, where it's like, hell, I just want to survive this quarter, these next 6 months. But there's no joy or passion when you wake up and think, hell, I'm going to go for it today. I'm just going to survive. It's not attractive. Let me just come to you first of all, Mike, and then you, Drew, for your thoughts and any questions for the guys.
It's interesting. There's almost a common theme with the three of you guys, in terms of you. It was almost at the end of last year. It's a case of, it's make or break. And what I'd be interested in really from all three of you was, what was the turning point that was making the decision in terms of, I'm going to make this work? Okay, if I could come to you first, Nick, I'd just be interested in that.
I didn't have any other. I don't have any choice. I mean, I've got a number of children, there's mouths to feed. It was going to, I'm not going to work for somebody else. End of. So, I just kept asking. I think I hadn't asked. I hadn't asked for a retainer. So, and I wasn't going to bow down like I normally do and go, oh, okay, go on then, I'll do it. It's like, I'm fucking mate. I want a deposit. I want to fucking retain. I'm going to get my pitch right. And I think when you line it all up, when you know what you're going to say, you know how you're going to pitch it, and you've painted the right picture to them and they understand, it was pretty simple. And it was just overcoming that to say, you've understood who I am and what I'm about, and I'm not going to give in. That was my turning point. Because once I knew when I got my first retainer, then it would just, they would flow. So I had that belief. And I'm pretty.
Just dig a little, if I may, just dig a little deeper on that. What got you to that point in terms of, I'm going to make this work now. I don't care what I've got to do.
Yeah. So the group calls, I think, really helped because I could hear, Don or Michelle and everyone else seemed to be doing deals, and I was like, well, they're winning, and that was a great thing. Is going on these calls with everybody on here, going, it's me. It's not the market. It's not the world's ending. It's actually me not doing it right. So keep perfecting it and keep perfecting it. And I think make loads of mistakes, I would say to anyone, because that will make you stronger. And I think that's what I did. I went in too early, I pitched too early, or I asked for it too early, or I just got the wrong client. And it wasn't me. It was just, I put my stall out and it's not for them now. And instead of going, you must buy from me now, you're the first person I've spoken to. And it doesn't work like that. And also they weren't ready and I wouldn't have done a good job for them. And I think when I got my head round speaking to somebody who goes, no, I really need you. I think you're really great and I'll pay you whatever. It's when it all clicked. And that's what I think a lot of people probably struggle with the retained stuff, is they don't read the person they're selling to and they don't really understand what you can deliver for them. So you're really, sort of talking to hot air. You're not actually selling to somebody that wants what you want or can see what you can do for them, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And that penny dropped for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask Dan the same question in terms of,
Yeah.
you said you're at a point where you say it's make or break. Why stick at it at that point in time?
Good question. So I probably the best way to answer that would be that it wasn't like I thought I needed a kick in the ass. That wasn't what I thought I needed. I think at the time I thought if I can get the lead generation stuff right, then the rest of it I'm good at, right? And so, I pulled the trigger on the program, and the first 90-day part of the program, I didn't have the cash at the time. I put it on the credit card, and then I thought, well, fuck it, I've spent this money, I may as well get the most out of it. So I think I watched all the videos of the first 90 days I watched in the first month, because I figured at the time, I figured the quicker I go through it, the quicker I get results. I'll either make back the money I've spent on the program, or I'll be out of business. But either way, it'll happen quickly.
Interesting.
Yeah, excellent. Drew.
If I could ask,
Sorry, Mike. Sorry.
if I could ask Jeremy the same question. I mean, you sat there December last year, 6 deals fall apart. You've come from a background setting up your own business. Why carry on?
Good question. I think there's a couple things. I mean, I think everybody here has to be a determined individual. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt. And even if, your determination might waver at times, I think we're all pretty resilient people that want to succeed and are attempting to succeed. But when I look at, because I've been faced adversity my whole life, and especially in business, but what helped me this time actually was two things. One of them was actually the vision board. And I've never had a vision board in my life, but you guys have to understand, I mean, I had a very, very good lifestyle, and I sold everything I had to invest in this business and this dream of being an entrepreneur, if you will. And putting that vision board together just to really kind of help bring it into reality was a big changer for me. And it wasn't just, material items and things, but, I've got some other things that strike at me at a very deep core level that I wanted to achieve, and success in this business was what's going to help me attain that goal, if you will. So I honestly, the vision board thing, I was kind of blown away by how that was able to help me manifest some of the success. And I do have a piece of paper on the vision board as well that has some of my financial goals. One of them, on a very personal note, was for financial support for my girlfriend and I to perform IVF treatments in order to have a baby. The other one was to purchase some international rental property in Phuket, Thailand. So the first milestone was end of 2021, which here we are, and we have the cash for IVF. The next milestone was, thank you. The next milestone was 2024, which again was the cash for rental property in Phuket. So I predicted that in 2024 we would have that. I have that now. I also have a couple large purchases, including 2 vehicles and a car hauler to tow my race car, which are on the vision board, which I've achieved already. So, you know, I think it was being able to see some of those things and really kind of say, hey, yeah, we all want to succeed, but this is what I want to achieve, was a really big point of where I said, okay, I can't afford to fail. You know, if this is what I truly want, if this is what I want to go after, I have to find a way to succeed. So
that's excellent. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, my question was similar to Mike's actually, and Jeremy, you sort of answered it there a bit, but I was more interested in the. So yeah, you've all said that you had no choice, you know, but recently you did, right? And there's people that come through this program who find themselves in the exact same situation that you guys are in, but then go the other way, like give up, right? So what I was more interested into, and this is again, I'm speaking like particularly to Jeremy and Nick, because I had one-on-one calls. I didn't have a one-on-one call with you, so I didn't necessarily see it. But I know both you two, there was times where you was in a really low place, like mindset-wise. So I was more interested into, you know, what, you know, you can say, yeah, we had no choice, but like, what actually did you do, you know, day in, day out to transform your mindset? Jeremy, you gave sort of a small insight into it there. So if you want to expand on it, like, you know, please do. But then, yeah, Nick and Dan as well. Like, there must have been, you know, what did you do? Because everyone gets in that place where your mindset's just shit. What was it that you did, or what habits did you do to get yourself out of that place and, you know, into where you are now? Because I think, you know, everyone that's seen you through that would say, all of you, oh, it's been a transformation. People always use that word, transformation, but what was it that you did that got to that point? So Jeremy, just because you was on the topic anyway, I'll start with you, then Nick, then Dan.
That's a great question, Drew. I think, and I don't mean a cliche, but I honestly, I just kept doing what I've always done, which is, you know, work hard and try to be diligent. Very rarely at my prior firm in my career have I had, you know, long dry spells, if you will, where you might go a long period of time without a deal. I think for probably the first decade or so, the longest I ever went without a deal, it might have been 4 to 6 weeks. So I was pretty used to having, you know, that consistent, you know, high, if you will, right, of closing a big deal. And then I remember a couple of years ago, we had and I think it was either 2017 or 2018, we didn't close a single deal the whole first quarter. We had a bunch of stuff that was close and it fell apart. Just like, why did that fall apart? Like, just, it was very bizarre. And that was like, oh my gosh. And I remember at that time, it was like, well, all I can do is keep doing the things that I know have proven to be successful in the past and not lose hope and not give up. And I kind of reached into that bag this go around because, you know, after December of last year, I came into the new year, meaning this year, with sheer determination that I'm going retained. I don't care what happens. Like this, I've got to make it work. I'm going to make it work. And it took me, I think it took me about 3 months almost to get that first big retainer in. And when there were absolutely times where I was in a deep, dark place emotionally and mentally. And, you know, that's certainly not an enjoyable experience, but, you know, listening to the program, you guys, and even if I was not super, you know, enthusiastic or upbeat, I just thought, you know what, if I continue to follow this path, there's got to be success eventually. Like, this is the path to success. How can I fail if I keep walking it? If I stop walking it, obviously I'm never going to achieve it. If I divert off the path, who knows what's going to happen? So I like, what is it, Alcoholics Anonymous that say, you know, trust the process? That was kind of where I was going, you know, so.
So
yeah, very, very similar actually. Number one, I kept fit. I think that really kept my mindset. Lots of walks and just working out like I did before, so I didn't change anything. And like Jeremy, when we weren't doing any deals, I was just talking to as many candidates or clients and just saying, hey, how you doing? And just keeping the momentum going. I didn't stop. I was continually in people's faces. And I think It was the belief that actually I was going to do a retained business, and actually I believed that it would help my clients in doing, you know, taking the pain away for them. I really believed it, and that was, it's as simple as that. You know, the dark places were awful. I never want to go there again. And thank you for all of you supporting me over those months. And I think, you know, it was pretty emotional, but we got through it. And I think, you know, it's made me a better person. And to be honest with you, I think COVID has made recruitment, and, you know, I hate to say it, but a better industry, because now businesses are taking a look at us in a different way, and they need us, you know. So thank you in a way for getting me to get to retained, and I'm enjoying my job much more, and we're making a shitload more money doing it. So, you know, it's worth going through that pain, and it's just about believing. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, for me, if I remember, I think the first couple of months, I actually think I don't, this is going to sound weird, but I didn't place as much importance on the mindset stuff straight away. I figured if I just did the activities, generated some results, then it would take the stress off, and I could focus then on growing a business. But part of, I guess, just with time zones and things like that, the one thing I could do every week was Monday Momentum. So I've done every call, except for one when I was on holidays throughout the year for Mondays. And it's funny, even though my initial mindset was I'm kind of doing this just because it's the only call I can do live. After maybe the first 3 or 4 of those, I was like, actually, there's always something worthwhile being taken out of this. And then, yeah, I think once I started to get a bit of momentum, the activities was the big thing for me.
Interesting.
Yeah, so interesting you're saying that, and as you all know, I sign off about, and talk about taking action, be relentless and take action. But you won't take action because there's a saying: mindset equals action, and action equals results. So until you have the mindset, you won't take the action steps, and with the action steps is where you get the results. So it's why we place so much emphasis on actual mindset, because that's at the core of everything, you know. And if you listen very carefully to the language here, people are talking about beliefs and about their whys. That's mindset. See, whatever you believe is true. If you believe you can't get retainers in your country or your niche, it's true. If you believe you can get retainers, that's also true. If you believe, you probably heard what Nick's saying, we do a valuable job for hiring managers. Think how you behave to if you believe our hiring managers don't like recruiters and we're a pain in the butt. Listen to Jeremy's language about his real why and what he would save the money for. That's, again, it's all mindset, because ultimately what drives you is it's not the goal itself, but it's and I asked the question, what will achieving your goal give you that you don't believe you have now? It's that why. Because wherever you are, you know, and I know there's some guys here that, you know, looking to do $1 million, there's some guys here that looking to do 250,000. It doesn't matter. But whatever happens is every now and then the shit's going to hit the fan. That's a fact of life. And what psychologists found was that those individuals that had a strong and compelling why have greater resilience. Because all those guys you just thought they had that resilience. Things were really shitty. 6 deals falling through. But you've got to pick yourself up and dust yourself up and keep going. But you can only do that when you have that powerful and that compelling why. It's like whatever it takes. 6 deals have just fallen through. I've worked my butt off. I've got nothing to show for it. I've got a choice. I can quit, or I can just keep going to hell today. I'm going again. And you get back in that boxing ring, and you think, yeah, again and again. But that's all mindset is the point that I'm making there. Well, I just want to go around the room and just get some feedback from a few people, thoughts, observations, what I've heard so far. Michelle, I'm going to come to you first of all, then Don and Phil.
Hi, yeah. Thanks everyone for sharing. I know it resonates quite a lot with myself, because I think ultimately, like so many like Nick and Dan and Jeremy have said already, it's sort of you left with no choice really. And I know that's the realization that I got to, is like what have you got to lose? Do you know what I mean? You sort of, and I know I've spoken to, you know, a couple of people have reached out to me for sort of references on this course and said, oh, you know, Michelle, you've given a really good reference. Is it really that good? And I'm like, well, it depends, because is the course that good? Of course it is, but actually it's all down to you and how much you want it, and that's the reality. Because if you think, and I think somebody said on one of these calls a few weeks ago, I can't remember who it was actually, that maybe they thought they were just going to get some ideas and they could leave everything else behind and there'd be like this magic solution or formula that they just could follow and it would all fall into place. And it's just not like that, you know. I mean, it might not be rocket science, but it is hard work. But I mean, ultimately it is around, as people have said, mindset and that realization that, you know, you personally are worth it and that you want something new or something different, really. So I'm waffling again now, so I'll stop.
You're not Michelle. Yeah.
Good.
Make some really good points. Thank you, Michelle. Excellent. Don. Hello, sir.
Good afternoon, or good evening, Dan, or good morning, Jeremy.
Good morning.
So, yeah, this has been really an eye-opener and really helpful to hear about other people's stories. You know, a couple of things that resonate. One in particular is, and I hope this is for the benefit of everyone, that what I heard from Dan, Nick, and Jeremy all is that they were all struggling. And they committed to doing the activities, which then resulted in the results that we're all seeing here today. And I find it difficult. I don't know about other people, but I find it difficult sometimes when you're staring into the abyss, you know, to get up and do what's in front of you, to, as Nike says, just do it. And that can present a major roadblock, I think. The why has always been challenging to me on some level. And I'm curious, really, and I'll be glad to flip this back around to our guest speakers here today, but the why, what I'm kind of hearing here is, at some level, the why is I've got to do it. I think Michelle just said that. Maybe Nick, feeding your kids. I've got to do it because, and that's coming from one place. But what I also heard from Jeremy is I've already achieved several of these objectives this year that are 3 or 4 years down the road, and that strong desire not to do it in some sense out of fear, but out of seeing those results actually materialize. They're almost like two different motivational patterns to me. Maybe I'm off base on that, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about that if you guys could comment on that.
Just before they do, Don, just a couple of things. All of us are motivated by one of two things: either what's called away from, to trying to avoid something, or to get something. So all humans, whatever we do, it's one of those two reasons, you know, that it's a fear of something or trying to achieve something. What psychologists found was that we're more likely to do something and take more action, and if we're trying to avoid something. So if a doctor says to you, you're going to die tomorrow unless you wear a green t-shirt, you're more likely to do it than if the doctor says if you wear a green shirt, you'll live for longer. Bizarrely, I'd say bizarrely, that's what I found. And I think all of us are like that, is that although we say we want something, what often is driving us is what we don't want as well. If that makes sense.
It does. Yeah, it's that nuance between those two areas and the relative strength, maybe, of each of those aspects. So
I'll be interested to get come to you first, Dan, Nick, and then Jeremy. Your thoughts on that?
I mean, I guess it's like the fight or flight concept or analogy, right? Like, are you fighting the lion attacks you? Are you fighting to beat it, or are you fighting it to survive? And I'd say it's the same thing to your point that you just made, Terry.
Yeah. Excellent. Thanks.
I think for me is enjoyment. I wasn't enjoying my job anymore. I wasn't enjoying doing the recruitment on a contingent basis. It's not about the money. It was, enjoying the job, and the money will come. And that was my focus. It wasn't about the money. It was just about delivering something good and just seeing the end result. And that's what got me through it. I think it was a new way of doing it. And and I think it's quite obvious now. I'm a lot happier about it, and it's great fun again.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks, Nick. Jeremy?
Can you rephrase the question for me again? Or restate it?
Yeah, Don was really asking about your real motivation, your real why. What is the real why? You touched on some of them, but what's underneath all that that's really driving? Would that be a fair summary, Don?
Yeah, and maybe the comparative nature of coming from, and I'm going to call it a fear state because I don't have a better way to characterize it. Coming from the fear of failure to the incredible opportunity of the success, Jeremy, that you've achieved this year. Those two motivations may be slightly different. Is one stronger? Why? Any of that would be useful.
Yeah, and I think Terry mentioned it too. It's the motivation to achieve gain, or the motivation to avoid pain. And there's a couple of books I've read this year that talk about that. Most people are traditionally motivated by the avoidance of pain. They want to avoid the pain, and they're willing to do that over, pursuit of achievement, right? Because it's easier. It doesn't really take much work to avoid pain. It takes a lot of work to achieve gain, right? And I guess it's hard to answer, because I think sometimes you just you have that battle in your head, right, that you're playing out of, well, this is going to be kind of tough, and do I really want to put myself through the aggravation and it's not necessarily the fear of loss. It's just, do I want to put myself through that situation where loss is probably going to happen, right? It's going through those uncomfortable phases and those uncomfortable discussions and all that. And I can't remember who said this, but actually, no, I think it might have been in Brian Tracy's book. Is he had interviewed a marathoner that had won, several actually, it wasn't a marathon, it was a triathlon, excuse me. He had won 6 or 7 in a row. And he asked the guy, he says, how do you continue to win, so often, so consistently? He says, it's not about my work ethic or my physique or my genetics or any of that. He says, I'm just willing to take more pain than everybody else. They're giving up before I do, and so I'm always winning. And I think that's kind of what it is doing the things that cause you pain, doing the things that make you uncomfortable, and kind of pushing through that difficulty despite the pain, because you want to achieve something, right? Yes, yeah. Thank you, Michelle. Brian Tracy talks a lot about that too. What price are you willing to pay? Most people don't want to pay anything in advance, right? They want to be rewarded after the fact, rather than saying, well, you know what? Like I did a year ago, I got to sell my house, my cars, my trucks, and all this stuff. I have to pay that price to achieve a longer term and greater success. Most people would never do that. Sorry, I have these things. I'm not letting go of them. Pry it out of my cold dead hands, right?
Yeah, and the other thing with the motivation, whether it's to get something, to avoid something, what can happen to some people is that what they're trying to avoid. So, here's an example. Some people, when we first talk to them, they may not be doing quite as well. So let's say they're doing 200,000, and they say, "Yeah, I just want to get to 300,000, because at 300,000 I'm now profitable. At 200,000 we're barely scraping by and whatever." So here's the challenge with that: is they then get to 300,000, they've got no motivation, because their goal was to avoid something. So what happens is they get to a certain level and they stop. And whether you mentioned there, Jeremy, about sports people and business people, there's some people they want to avoid the pain, and they use that example. They get to 300,000 and then they look at it and they go, maybe I could do 6, maybe I could do 9. Now they're motivated for what they want. And I don't know if there's an ideal way to be motivated. I think a lot depends on the individual as well. But if you ever find yourself where you haven't got that oomph that you had before, just stop and ask yourself, why are you doing this and what's your motivation? Because it's quite common then that at some level you may have achieved something, and it's just like, now we used to work, Drew, remember this, his first name was Martin, and he employed a number of consultants, and he used to say, I think for them to make a profit, they had to do 50,000 a month every month. And he said they would put their heads down and they would work their butt off. And when they got to about 45, 50, he'd be like, whew, done it. But they rarely got above 50, because every time they got to around about 50, they took their foot off the accelerator. It's quite common. And you need to be aware if you're doing it. I'm aware, and you're not always aware at the time of doing it, but often when you reflect back on what's gone on in your life and say the last quarter or the last 12 weeks or the last 6 months, you go, hang on a minute. We're not doing what we were doing before. At some level, I've taken my foot off the accelerator. And that awareness, and by the way, journaling is really useful for doing that. When you can reflect on what you've done in the past and what you do in the moment, there will be signs there that at some level you may have taken your foot off the accelerator. So when people say, I just want to survive, they get to survival and then that's it. Drew, over to you, buddy.
No, yeah, to taking it in a different direction now. One thing I wanted to say about all of you, and again, this goes for every single one of our most successful students that come through the program, is one thing that you've all done really, really well is you've shown up. Most weeks you're there. If you go to a live call, you're there. Even Dan, even if you're not there live, I know you listen most weeks. You listen to the recording, right? So that's one thing I say. And then the other thing I say that you do implement. You show up and you implement. And this is, you're not unique in this. I think every single one of the people that come for our program, there's always a delay. There's always a period where they're showing up, watching, but they're not pulling the trigger. I remember having a one-on-one conversation with you, Jeremy, and you sort of got to the point where you were sort of pissed off with yourself for just not doing anything. Dan, I remember, again, this is through Terry, I remember you telling your friends about one of the strategies and them getting some, I think it was a spear email, them doing it and getting some good results, but you still haven't done it yourself. So yeah, my question is like, what was stopping you pulling the trigger and doing actually implementing what you're taking in? I'll start with you, Dan, then Jeremy, then Nick.
I distinctly remember, so that first month when I watched all the videos from the first 90 days, in my mind, I had this idea that if I accumulated knowledge, that would help me. So I watched all the videos. I watched so there was all the videos in the members section for the first 90 days. Plus there was all the live calls that month that I watched the recordings of, and Monday Momentum as well. And I probably watched, I think I worked it out to be, I think I watched about 45 hours worth of content in the first month. And yeah, I was really proud of myself. I was like, this is great. And it didn't make me any money. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry. Then what? Yeah, what?
Yeah, no. So I implemented some things, but again, I prioritize learning, gaining the knowledge rather than I guess the way I would look at it now is if I treated it more like say agile project management with stages and implementing short sprints. If I'd watched a video and implemented that, I would have got results quicker.
Yeah. Okay. And you next, Nick, and then Jeremy. Same question.
Yeah, I think I was overwhelmed. I think at the beginning, to be perfectly honest, I remember speaking to Mike and Terry and just going, yeah, this is really exciting. I think you do get that when you get something new. I went up and then suddenly went, shit, what do I do? And how do I do it? And I think the moment I got the script right and I knew how to pitch it and I felt comfortable and I believed in it myself, that's when it happened. But it took, 2 or 3 months? I think it wasn't until April I got my first, bit like Jeremy. I was like, okay, March, if I don't do a deal this month, I'm screwed. I'm fucking screwed, properly screwed. I've got no plan B, and it was like, okay, let's get this bloody pitch. I love selling, come on. So I think that was probably what it was just getting my head around it and getting the pitch right. And once I had it, then it was, it was go.
Yeah, and it's interesting. We say this quite often. In fact, we might even do a Monday Momentum on this about fear and about, because whatever your success is that you want, it's just the other side of that fear. But often the fear is, an example might be an email or whatever it is around, what if I get it wrong? But you will get it wrong. But the people that enjoy more success are those people that go, I may get this wrong, but I'm going to do it. Because if the fear holds you back too much, then you don't do it. And I can guarantee you, by the way, you'll have no success whatsoever. If you do nothing, cast iron guarantee, you're not going to get anything. I can't give you a cast iron guarantee it's going to work the other way, but I know you stand a substantially better chance if you can just think, what I want is just the other side of that fear. And I've got to break through that fear and take action, because that's when I'm going to get the results. Yeah.
I totally agree. That's exactly right. Overcome that fear, make mistakes. I asked 20 times before they said yes. And I didn't deserve it before, right? So it's getting over that fear 100%.
Thank you. Mike, anything you want to ask? And I'm going to come around the room. I'm going to come to a few of you. I'm going to come to Manuel.
I think Jeremy didn't ask.
Sorry, Drew. Oh, sorry, Jeremy. My apologies. Sorry, buddy.
Shame on you. That's okay. We got a lot going on today. Man, there's a lot of you that have been here since I've been in the program now for over a year. And, let's just call it end of last year, beginning of last year. My head was in a, I don't want to say it's a weird place, but there was just so much going on, really trying to wrap my head around what Dan talked about. You absorb all this material and you're like, what do I do with all this, right? What do I prioritize? I'm still trying to sell and add all this different stuff. And it was so tough. And I think that what prevented me from, actually taking action on a lot of the stuff, now that I've had a chance to really kind of break everything down, there's a couple of things. One, I think it was not necessarily the fear of failure, because again, I knew that, as I started pitching retainers that, I'm not going to get 100% closure rate, but there was a fear of not achieving perfection, right? Like not wanting to make your first pitch the best possible pitch, because that's who I am, right? I'm constantly pushing myself to better myself personally, professionally. And so like, you don't want to show up unless you're your best form. And I'm sorry, your first pitch retainer, I know mine was terrible, and so it was, I guess, it was like almost like that kind of fear of being uncomfortable again, of having to go through, that learning process of, hey, you know what, I may be an expert and I may be a master in some domains, but now I'm stepping into uncharted territory and just saying, you know what, this is what I have to do, I definitely struggled with what Dan said was almost an appetite for information, like how much can I absorb? I mean, I was cramming in one book every 5 days. I mean, I was just eating information like crazy. And it's just too much. I'm pretty intelligent, but, at the end of the day, you got to take a second to stop and process and say, okay, even for one of the Apex modules, let's work on doing some of these things instead of saying, oh, well, the next one's going to be the easy button, right? The next one's going to have the magic that I'm looking for. Terry, I think you said before that, a lot of people come to the program or looking for a program that offers them this hidden kung fu skill that's just going to make them magically better at whatever they do. And it's just not that, So, but what I wanted to make a long answer longer, I think what I've discovered this year, because it's a constant struggle, but of something I've improved on. And I just lost it. I'm sorry. Yeah, getting older. There's a situation where I think that as you're trying to take on a new initiative or a new project, that maybe you just don't really know what to do, and you again, you have to just kind of do the best that you can, right? Anytime we're starting a new endeavor, there's going to be some unknown variables that you just have to kind of contend with. And I think not doing something because of a fear of perfection or fear of failure is, like you said, it's an ironclad guarantee that you won't achieve anything. So, you know, just do the darn thing, right?
Yeah, and you know, I remember at school, teachers say to me, knowledge is power, but it's not. It's the implementation of the knowledge that you acquire is where you get the power. Yeah, thanks for that, Jeremy. Mike, Merrick.
I think the one thing that comes through from the three of you is just the belief in yourself, and secondly, just getting on and doing it. It's just what you're saying. It's taking what you learn, applying it, but also understanding it's like, you know, Drew talks about lag and lead indicators. If you do something today, it might not give you a result for another 3 months. You know, the phone call you make today might not give you a result for another 12 months. That doesn't mean to say you don't keep doing it. It's being persistent enough to take that on board and say, okay, what I'm doing now might not give me a result for another 3 months. Might be 6, might be 12 months. But I've got to keep doing it, because if you do it, that result will eventually come.
Yeah.
Okay, I remembered what I was going to say. I think we're all guilty of this, and this is, again, you guys always give me the best book recommendations, but Clockwork by Mike Michalowicz. He talks about doing the easy stuff because it's a routine, right? And let me give you an example. When you are you know, faced with 10 different things to do in a given day, and you go, well, you know what? Responding to LinkedIn chat messages is what I want to do because it's easy. It's not necessarily going to give me the best result. Like, maybe you should be spending your time working on implementing some of the other programs you've read about, tactics, etc. That's difficult because it almost forces you to break your routine and do something new and different. And whether you're scared or not, it's just a more challenging task, because it's easy to kind of get in that autopilot mode of, hey, you know what, LinkedIn chat's easy. Let me copy and paste my messages and respond to this and book appointments. And it's like, it's a low value task that's easy to do. And even though there's some outcome from that, there's some result, it's like one of those quick fixes, right? It's like, okay, that's not really getting you to the long-term goal. And when we talk about all these different things that the Apex program mentioned, as far as getting to those next steps, I think, again, a lot of people have a tendency to say, well, that's going to be really hard to do, so let me go back to doing something easy. And you remain busy, but you're not really accomplishing anything. So yeah. So for me, as I was absorbing all that information over a 2 or 3 month period, that's what I did, is I went back to those easy tasks that were familiar, rather than the stuff that I wasn't familiar and just easy to jump into, if you will.
Yeah. I'd imagine a lot of people do that, actually. Thanks for sharing that, Jamie. The next question is, I'll start with you, Dan. What's been your biggest win? It's 2 questions here. What's been your biggest win for the last 12 months? What's been your biggest lesson for the last 12 months? So Dan, Jeremy, and then Nick.
So biggest wins. I had my best quarter from April to June this year. This quarter I'm slightly lower than that, only just. But I have a meeting tomorrow, and I'm going to win a retainer in it. There's the hot tip. And regardless of if I do or not, this year will now be the best year I've had since I started my business.
Awesome. Well done, buddy.
So yeah, a couple of biggest wins, best quarter, which could be beaten tomorrow, certainly best year. Lessons, I think for me, the biggest lesson would be I simplified. It didn't happen straight away, but I figured out, you know, I tried everything, all the different strategies, but I went hard on LinkedIn. I simplified it. The Excel spreadsheet with the lead and lag indicators is all I use now, and I measure everything off that. I think I talked about it in my interview back in October, where every week I set out in my calendar time to do whatever the different activities are, and I'm just religious about it. And you know, I think if I bring up I only started tracking it in late March, and you know, we're only just at the start of December, so it's really only 8 months. But you know, I've sent something like 4,660 messages. I've booked 196 triage calls from it since March, and most of those have been in the second half of the year. So it took me a while to ramp up. You know, I only booked a couple in
Dan,
March.
sorry about that. Dan, sorry about that, buddy. Just for the new guys, just share that volume again, please, in terms of
Sure.
number of messages you send and number of appointments.
So I've sent 4,663 messages since basically the beginning of April, and I've booked 196 triage calls.
Just for terminology, triage call, you mean you've booked 196 meetings with hiring managers in your market?
Yeah, and I know of that, about 140 would have been first time I've ever spoken, so brand new prospects, and then what I've figured out is about a third of mine, you know, some of you decide they aren't the right fit or they're not really the right person, etc. So about a third of those I've then booked into a second call down the, you know, the timing's not right, so you book it in 6 weeks time, 3 months time, whatever it is. So it's slightly over 30%, or slightly over a third, I should say. But I would say about out of that 196, there's about 140 brand new prospects I've never spoken to before.
And again,
can I just clarify something there, Dan? And you work in your business by yourself with no support? Yeah,
correct.
And by the way, and Dan does it manually as well. So he's not using any software. Dan's there first thing in the morning, copy and paste those messages. But here's something interesting about Dan. Sorry to embarrass you, but we spoke, I think it was September, as we were coming into the last quarter, and you were saying to me, this is going to be my best quarter. I was going, oh, great, and that's fantastic. Why is that? What have you got lined up? And you said, I haven't got anything lined up. I've got no business whatsoever. I just know. But here was a key thing. Dan just trusted the process. Because if you again, we come back to this mindset to do the action to get the results. So his mindset is, if I just do the actions, I kind of know the results I'm going to get. So prior to the quarter, he knew he's going to smash his quarter. And again, Dan has some, if you want to share them, Dan, some things he wants to do next year in terms of travel and whatever. So he's like, yeah, I'm going to do it this quarter because I want to do these things for quarter one of next year. Yeah.
So at the beginning of the year, when Terry and I first spoke, I said in 12 months, we talked about, you know, what happens in 12 months time if you've met your targets, had a good year, etc. And so I lived in Spain for a few months back in 2018. You know, I've got a lot of friends over there. I wanted to go back and, you know, visit the town I lived in and see my friends, etc. there. I'm a cyclist, do a bit of cycling. So it's just all coincided, obviously, with the get together in London in January. So I booked it all last week, a week in London for our get together, and then I'll go to Spain for 3 weeks.
Nice.
Nice one. Again, another example of the why.
Give me Boris's number and I'll give him a bell. Tell him we're not coming back into lockdown.
You're gonna miss this
I'll just
Christmas
recheck
party.
that down.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Dan. Brilliant. Nick, same question for you. What were your biggest wins and lessons for the last 12 months? And then the same question for you, Jeremy. Nick,
So the biggest win for me is I won a client that's basically nailed my Q1 for 2022. You know, my goal next year is to do 500,000 in revenue. So, I mean, it's probably more than that. And it's 7 massive roles. So I'm so pleased. I've got 2 offers out of those 7. So they're starting in Jan. So it's all still fitting into Q1. So it's you know, for me, that's, you know, so going back, what did I do? How did I win that? Well, very simply, very early on, I realized I needed to stay niche in what I do. So followed all the companies that obviously I want to target, and keep in touch whenever there's an update on LinkedIn with any movement within a business, and kept in touch with the sales directors, the hiring managers, or the chief revenue officers I needed to speak to. And, you know, got recommended to speak to HR, and then pitched, and I was right, and I was ready. So my biggest wins was, you know, believe in yourself and really believe that you're very good at what you do, and don't change, and stay niche. Don't try and conquer everything, which is what I used to do. And, you know, just really enjoy the journey with that. You know, don't put too much pressure on yourself to get it. And I think your personality will come across, and how much you want it. And they chose me over a bigger company because they felt that I would give them a better service. So I learned, you know, that actually that's what they really care about, is the service. You know, whatever. So that's been my biggest wins this year, definitely.
And biggest lesson. What's the biggest lesson you took away from the last 12 months?
Biggest lesson is just keep making mistakes and learning. Coming onto these, I've been on most of these when I could, if I wasn't on holiday, and watching other people succeed is really important. Accepting it, I'm not doing so well. Why are they doing well? I really think that helps for your mindset, so that you get up next day. I get up every day at 6 o'clock, whether I'm feeling like shit, just keep going and just keep learning from everybody. I think that's been my biggest wins. It's something I've never done before. I've always thought, no, I know how to do this. I don't need anybody to tell me how to do it. So it's opening up and trying different things, I think, has been my biggest lesson.
Excellent. Thanks for that.
Excellent.
Thanks, Nick. Same question for you, Jeremy.
Yeah, biggest win was getting my first retainer. You know, I think that was confirmation from the universe that this thing's going to work, that it can happen, you know, and it's kind of like that little boost that you need to fuel your beliefs for continued success, you know, despite a lot of failure. I was just looking here while we're chatting. From, let's see, my first retained agreement was sent December 7th. And the first acceptance, which means by the time I had one accept, was March 7th. So that's 3 months, right? 4 months even. I don't know what the actual math on that is, but a long time. You know, and what was that? That's probably at least 15 contracts. I mean, that's a lot to not have any failures. So when I got that first one, I was like, okay, this can be done. That was a big win for sure.
Yeah. And big lesson for you?
You know, biggest lesson, there's so many. I think it's hard to pick one. I want to touch a little bit more on what I just mentioned earlier from the writings of Mike Michalowicz, and specifically in his book Clockwork, which talks about, you know, running a more autonomous business, if you will, or one that can run like clockwork, so to speak. But it's twofold. One, you know, it's great to work hard. You know, you've got to put in the effort. You've got to have a good pace, a good tempo. But if the tasks are low worth, then, you know, you're not really working smart at that point. You're just working hard. So don't forget to work smart. And some of that is, you know, going back and evaluating, hey, does it make sense for me to be doing this? Does it make sense for me to be doing LinkedIn chat? Probably not, you know, and don't fall into that trap of, you know, work is work is work. And no matter what I do to perform, that's going to get me to my goal, because it may not. So I think the lesson is, you know, realize how you're performing in the business. And is that the best use of your time?
Good shout. Good shout. Excellent shout. Thanks, Jeremy. Over to you, Drew.
Yeah, just a question in terms of revenue. I mean, Dan, you sort of touched on it, that, you know, it's been your best every year and your best quarter. But what, again, I guess I want to know what the growth has been, you know, compared to like the same period over the last year, and same for obviously Nick and Jeremy as well.
So for me, it would be it's about 300% growth on last year.
Oh.
That might change tomorrow based off tomorrow's meeting, but I'll come back to you.
Hey, listen, I'll put my money on that you're getting that deal. So make sure you do, buddy.
It'll be
300%, awesome.
Well done, 300%. That's fantastic. Well done, buddy.
Same question to you, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, we've doubled our revenue, but I think the market has been up and down still this year, but now I'm feeling very confident that, so I had a meeting with my accountant this week, and we planned 2022. So we worked out, in order to do the 500,000 I want to do, what my average deal was for 2021 and what I needed to achieve every single month. And we broke it down. So I know now how many deals I need to do at what value every month. And we're having sort of every 2 weeks, a catch up on how I'm performing and how much profit I'm making. This was an extra cost, which I was reluctant to do last year. It's the best thing I've done in the last 2 or 3 weeks. One of many things. I've changed quite a few things, but this really helped me. Now I know I need to do 3 deals or 4 deals or whatever that value. So I need to have that amount of pipeline or that many retained searches ahead. So I can't suddenly do a great Q1 and then do a crappy Q2, which is what I've been doing for the last 20 years. You know, the success is about consistency and planning ahead. You know, and I've never done planning ever before. So I think with all these things together now, I can't see myself failing. It sounds really arrogant, but I'm so like in the zone now. I can't wait for 2022. And, you know, I will take time off, but I want to have the same energy and same focus and grab it and just go every quarter and just, you know, just be on it. Because I think I found the winning formula. I really do. So I'm hoping, well, I'm not hoping, it's going to happen. I'm not worried about it, but you know, I'm watching my language because I know Terry's going to say something if I don't. So, and that's really helped. Actually, that really helps. He's hanging on every word I'm saying.
Let me ask you a question. Imagine, Nick, I'm going to go running, out jogging tonight, and I said to you, I can't see myself getting in October. I'm not being arrogant. You wouldn't say, well, you're not being arrogant. Of course you won't get in October. You saying that you're going to smash your target isn't being arrogant. It's the way it is.
Good.
If I ask you what gender you are, you know, you're not going to hang on a minute, Terry. Let me just put my trousers down and check.
Actually, it could be he, she. This is a dodgy subject now.
Well, we've got to be a gender neutral group, Terry.
You can be anything you want to be, Terry.
Don't want to go there, Terry. Don't want to go there, mate. I live with 5 women. Trust me, mate. It's fucking night. You want to get on too.
But seriously, it's not being arrogant. It's just the way it is. You know, you're gonna go into your house and have a cup of tea. It's not being arrogant. It's just the way it is. You'll play 5-a-side football. You're going to score a hat trick, Nick. That's just the way it is.
I didn't yesterday, but I will. Yeah.
Seriously, you get the point. Well done, mate. Excellent. Same question for you, Jeremy.
I forget what the question was, but I think it's about my numbers.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, I'm not embarrassed to admit the numbers here. You know, last year, I think we did just over 53,000, which granted, again, was including starting from scratch, but, you know, it averages out to probably 18 or 20K a month. You know, so let's assume that I did 12 months of that, would have been 200, maybe 250 for the year. As of this writing, we're about 560 for the year. I've got a potential of 2 or 3 more retainers coming in, which would push us over the 600K mark, which is, you know, it's a great spot. I'm happy with that. It's not where I wanted to be. I wanted to do 1 million this year. And just, you know, it's funny that you are just making that statement about arrogance. I can look now back at what I've done all year, and I can see where I had opportunities to achieve that $1 million mark. That I just, like Nick said, I wasn't consistent enough. I wasn't planning ahead, probably celebrating a little bit too much, a little bit prematurely. And at times maybe be a little overzealous about, things just happening rather than driving them forward. And, I'm not mad at myself, but it's a unique perspective to be able to look back and go, okay, here's where I left some money on the table. And as long as I clean that up, well, then the future is determined. If I can, avoid those mistakes and those pitfalls, then I will achieve the next goal that I make. And I think that's a really powerful part of like Nick said, is planning ahead for goals, though, planning ahead for metrics and trying to achieve certain milestones. Because if you don't achieve them, it's just, oh yeah, I'm going to be better. Well, what does that mean, right? I'm going to do more. What does that mean? It's not specific or granular enough for you to be able to make any type of achievement. So I don't mean to ramble, but I think that's definitely an important message to share with people that are, looking for goals next year.
Yeah, I think you've made some great points. I want to go around the room a bit. Bill, I promised to come to you earlier, and then you slipped through the net, or I forgot. Probably I forgot, actually, Bill, truth be known. So I want to come to you first of all. Also want to come to you, Ray, and you, Andy. Then we're going to go to Mike. So Bill, thoughts, feedback, and any question?
Yeah, well, look, firstly, gents, thanks so much for sharing your stories and journeys over the past year. Truly inspiring and also moving, particularly Jeremy, talking about what you've been going through with your partner. We've talked about, I guess, motivation, so either wanting something or the fear of something. What I'd be quite keen to hear, and obviously I wouldn't want you to share anything that was too personal, but I'd love to hear about what impact you've seen, or maybe others have seen in you in other areas of your life as a result of what you've been doing.
If we start with Dan first of all, then Nick,
Sure.
and in fact, Dan, Jeremy, and Nick. We'll do it slightly different, yeah.
So certainly personally, I guess this year has allowed me to get back to doing a lot of things that I enjoy. I think Jeremy mentioned really early on about how last year starting a business, he cut back on costs and ran a really lean, lived a lean lifestyle, etc. And that's what I had done for a couple of years. So to get back to being able to do things like, going out for dinner and drinks whenever you want with friends and all that sort of stuff. Obviously, I've booked the trip to travel. Traveling's always been a big part of my life. I haven't been able to do that for a couple of years, partly COVID, and then before that, obviously, business not being great. How would other people? I don't know. I suspect. I wonder if there would probably be a lot of people who wouldn't know the challenges I went through. I probably hit it, would be my assessment.
Very common. Yeah. Thanks for that, Dan.
All right.
Jeremy, same question.
Yeah, when you first posed that question, I was like, I have no idea. How am I going to answer this? And thank you for not calling on me first. But ironically, this is something that I've kind of been passively thinking about here recently, and how this whole endeavor for me has changed other aspects of my life. And there's a pretty consistent kind of theme, if you will, in I would label that as kind of a pursuit of knowledge and I'd say perfection, pursuit of betterment, right? A pursuit of knowledge and a pursuit of bettering myself. So I've educated myself like crazy. Like I said, I think I've read probably 20 books this last 12 months, which is more than I probably read the previous 15 years, right? I mean, who reads 20 books in a year? And I know people certainly read a lot more than that, but to go from 0 to 20 is pretty cool. But it's not just reading books. It's like, wanting to take on additional information and figure out what other ways can you improve your life. And man, it's been such an introspective time to really look at the core of who I am and what I do, not only in my professional life, but my personal life. We talk about all this stuff about the the why and the motivation of having vision boards. And, I think since I've been honored to be interviewed from you guys before is, knowing who you are and knowing what you're capable of is, and bolstering other parts of your life just makes the business side easier. I've continued to push myself, my physical health, the last actually couple of months, it's been some of the strictest eating that I've ever had in my life, even when I was competing in bodybuilding and powerlifting, cutting out sugar and alcohol. I mean, just, really trying to perform at the highest level. It affects other parts of your life. You think clearer, you're sharper, you're more enthusiastic, you're more engaged, you sleep better, your sexual life is better. Everything just becomes kind of connected to this web of success. And I know that's apparent for people that are close to me, but I would not have gone after any of these things, gone after, I've even done some counseling occasionally, which is like a combination of, behavioral health as well as business coaching, and really looking at, why am I doing the things that I'm doing and why am I not pursuing other things? Because I want to be better, because I want to achieve what's on the vision board, and I want to achieve what's not on the vision board, because I haven't thought I can achieve that yet. If you never step outside of your comfort zone and go, okay, what can I do? That stuff's never going to come. So.
Thank you.
That's it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, I was very honest with all my friends and my family that I was going through a shit time. So they understood and they were very supportive. And they could tell the difference when things started going well, because I'm a bit of a joker, like, having a laugh or whatever. And I think the support I had, and take the kids, out for dinner and stuff like that, it's they can see that, their support, and that dad's a, and he's a human at the end of the day, and I think that was so important for me to share that with everybody, to know that I was going through a shit time. Business is shit. You can't do your horse riding. You can't do this, can't do that. And I think that really helped for me to then go, oh, okay, I'm doing well now. We're back on track. Things are good. It was great to have that support. And all my mates I go watching rugby with, down the pub or whatever, it's like, how's business? First thing, how you doing? They want to check my mindset. Great. Oh, that's really good, Nick. I'm really happy for you. And we move on. And I think that by sharing it, is my point, it really helped to cope with it, instead of bottling it in and just going, yeah, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Yeah, everything's good, when it's not. And I think that really got me through it personally. That's how I dealt with it.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
It does, yeah. Yeah, it does. I just want to quickly go around. I want to go to Andy, Ray. Yeah, questions, any feedback, observations? We've got another 5 minutes or so I want to get as much feedback from you guys as well.
Yeah, it's been great listening, I must admit. It's been very informative and very interesting. I suppose being where I am at the start of the journey, sort of 1 month into the program, as a lot of you guys were, say, from 12 months before. And yeah, it's really valuable information to take on board. I would say, I suppose the question would be to everyone, is it just a mix of using everything, whether it be from direct mail, from LinkedIn to telephone communication that works, or is there something that's worked particularly you've found that works really well for you, better than anything else?
I'm going to start with Jeremy.
Yeah, I'm jumping in on that.
Nick and Dan.
Andy, I think that's a great question. I think that's something that, you have to constantly evaluate, what tools are being effective. I actually found one of the most effective things that I learned from the program has nothing to do with any of that, but it goes back to working on multiple touches with the client, right? In my prior life, if you will, it was a one call close, maybe two at most. And, even though I can be, wonderfully charming and build value and rapport with clients, when you have 3, 4, 5, 6 touches or more with somebody, it's just easier. And especially if you combine that with stuff like LinkedIn or these other campaigns that you're mentioning, the trust and the ease of conversation is so much better. It's so much better than, pure cold calling or 1 or 2 touch type campaigns. So it's something I was thinking about this morning, is that's really kind of transformed my business too, is not just, working on multiple touches, but actually forcing it. So rather than trying to condense everything into one sitting, if you will, like, you know what, everything's going great on this call, but guess what? I got to cut it short. I've got another conversation to prepare for. Let's book again in 2 days. And it changes the dynamic of everything. And I found that everything's better from that point for me. So.
Excellent. Thanks, Jeremy. Nick?
I think for me, it's just find your niche, follow all the companies, so identify the companies you want to go after, keep connecting and following those companies. And when something is put on LinkedIn, anything to do with the business, get in touch and say, or message, get involved. And so they know who you are, a bit like what Jeremy's saying. It's not a cold call anymore, because they're like, who is this guy? Oh, great. Oh, I know who you are. Yeah, you're the recruiter guy. Actually, this could be a good time, or can we speak in 2 or 3 months? It's taking away the element of cold calling, because businesses, when you put your stall out, as I always say, and you say, this is what I do, so there's nothing to hide. So if they're going to engage with you, they know what you do. It just makes the conversation a lot easier. So by keeping it niche and just keep following them and acting when you see something that you can strike a conversation with them about, just makes it so much easier. And that's what I would do if I was in your shoes, just starting off, because then it just knows you are a recruiter in that space. So there you are, the go-to person.
Excellent. Thanks, Nick. Dan?
So yes, I implemented everything, and whilst I have since adapted and I've gone, really deep on LinkedIn, now that I think about it, I would argue that I wouldn't have known what good looked like unless I'd done. So I still do email campaigns. It's not the only thing I do, but I wouldn't, unless I'd done those other things as well at the start, I wouldn't have known that once I started to get results from LinkedIn, how good it was working for me. But yeah, it's not the only thing I do, although it's the thing that generates 95% of my meetings.
Excellent. Thanks, Dan. Want to go around? Oh, sorry, Ray. You there, buddy?
Oh, hello. I said I'm unmuted today. Yes, I am.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Any questions? Yeah, good. Thank you.
Sorry, full of coronavirus or something, or some variant. So sorry if I keep coughing. Sorry, what do you want to start on a question or?
Yeah, any questions for the guys?
Yeah, I actually, I suppose a little bit of a story. I set up my first pitch of a retainer today, and I sort of failed in a weird way. And I suppose I've learned a little bit of a lesson from it. The thing was, I wasn't sure when to pitch it. And what I mean by that was at the beginning or at the end of the call. And I decided, not the end, but so I decided, because it was basically a job take on call, and I was going to pitch retain to it. So it's going to be a new thing. So I basically went through taking on the job details, which went really well. And then I was going to then flip it into the sale. And he basically said, oh, I'm glad we covered all that. I've got to go, got another call, and went. So I didn't actually even pitch it. So I'm sort of sat there thinking, I was all fired up for it, I was all ready to do it. Should I have pitched it at the beginning, or was it just one of those things? Or because I didn't tell him I was going to pitch anything, I just thought I was going to surprise him at the end and do it in a,
So let me go
gentle
to
way.
Dan first. I'm going to go to Dan first this time, then Jeremy. Yeah, and Drew's just said you don't pitch retains, which is a good point. But let me go to Dan first, Jeremy and Nick.
So based off what you've said, my take would be, if you'd split that conversation into a triage call, you then would have qualified it first, and or being able to educate the client around the way you work. And that's, I mean, I only do retained executive search. And when I talk to people, even if it's on the very first conversation around, how's the weather today? One of the first things I say is, I only do retained search. Then they know, right? Like, it's okay if they're not interested, if that's not the way they want to work, that's all cool. I can move on to the next one. Yeah, that would be mine. So sorry, so if you have the triage call, to qualify, and then the sales call to actually pitch to have the conversation around fees and all that sort of stuff, and then a job intake, a separate call to take the details of the job.
I see what you mean. Yeah, I think because I've it's a contingent client with live roles, and then taking it to try and take seller retained from a contingent I've already got in place. I think once I get to that stage where I'm only doing retained, then it's easier, isn't it? Some ways.
Yeah. And people know, like, that's the other thing is that, I post on LinkedIn all the time. It's all over my profile. If someone looks at it, they're like, oh, that's what this guy does.
Yeah.
There's no, you couldn't
it's living and breathing it, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. You couldn't make that mistake.
Thanks, Dan.
Cool.
We're going to go around really quickly now, Nick, because we're running short of time. So, what would your
Drew
feedback
or
be?
Terry? I got to run in about 4 minutes, so can I say my piece? And
Okay, yeah.
okay. So, first of all, Ray, I think you should probably maybe schedule a brief call with Nick at some point to talk about how he converted his contingent clients to retained. He's got a really, really interesting storyline on that. I've been able to do it, and I think if there's an important lesson that I can give you on that is don't be afraid to do it. Don't ever be embarrassed or ashamed to be retained. If anything, I think you should hold that as a standing point. It's a layer of confidence. I used to think by when people were asking me like, "Oh, are you retained?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm retained." Like they're gonna immediately shoot me down, because that was the perspective I had for my whole career, right? It was like, oh, if you're retained, you're done. Good luck, right? And now when people ask me and I'm like, yeah, I'm retained and exclusive, they're like, oh, okay, good. Or, oh, that's we don't care what you are, but we just want to know. And I'm like, oh, that's not nearly as difficult as I thought. So I definitely think as you're making that transition, just believe in what you're doing. And recognize that, guess what? Not everyone's going to be okay with that. So what? There's plenty of business out there, my friend. You know what? If you don't get it all, there'll be another client that will say, yes, excuse me. But just like Dan was saying, as far as splitting those calls out, I have a 4-part process, which I put in the chat. Not everybody's going to necessarily want to do that or need to do that, but my searches tend to be very high level with a lot of overall detail. And just like I said a minute ago, breaking that out into 4 steps versus 1 or 2 has been hugely impactful for me and success. So I think if you can stretch it out a little further, that's a good thing. Absolutely. But at the end of the day, when I train, sales staff and stuff, the fee and the contract stuff is always the last thing you talk about. I don't care what they say, what they do, how you feel, what your instincts are telling you. You've got to hold out until you've built maximum value, maximum rapport. Otherwise, you're never going to be able to sell a premium fee. Ray, I don't know if you know me very well or not, but I get double, triple, quadruple fees over market averages because of my ability to really build that additional value and rapport. Other people that jump in on that first initial call, hey, nice to know you. By the way, we charge double and triple your competition. They're never going to close a deal that way. I had a sales call yesterday where the guy at the beginning of the call said, Jeremy, we pay $20K for physicians, maybe 30 at the most. And our minimum fee is 66 and potentially going to be even higher than that. He says, it's too much. I said, okay, let's talk. At the end of the call, he says, okay, you know what? If you give me the right person, we can handle the fee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and I can't tell you how many
it?
times that's happened in my career.
Yeah.
So there was something else I was gonna touch on, but I'll hand the mic over to Nick.
Thanks,
Jeremy.
I mean, just very quickly, Ray. It's impossible to sell a retainer just like that. I mean, if you do, it's pure chance. I think firstly, you got to believe that retained is what you do. So to think you can bring it up in the conversation, it's a slap in the face. It's nearly you're punching the guy in the face, going, "Hey, by the way, the call is about contingent." And then now you're going to say, I want some money up front. It's practically impossible. So you've got to set it up properly, as the guys have said. In the call before, does your website shout it out? Do you have that, retained sort of approach, language? So get in the mindset, get your pitch ready, and prepare the call to say, look, by the way, before we go ahead, I just want to, talk you through what we do and how we do it. Because if they haven't got your buy-in, you're wasting your time. And it's not really fair on them, because they're probably not the decision maker that's going to say, yes, I can afford to do that. It's typically an FD or some HR or whoever. So you've got to remember they've got to get approval. So you don't want to make them look stupid as well. But, stay on the course, do this every week. Trust me, you'll get there.
Yeah.
Excellent. Listen, folks, I'm gonna hand over to Drew. I've got to jump on the call now. But first, just before I do go, Jeremy, Nick, and Dan, thank you so much for sharing your journey this week. Absolutely fantastic. And the frankness as well. It's just been absolutely bloody awesome.
Thank you.
So thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing and giving. As I said, next week we've got Dan and Mike. It's the last session for this month, actually. So come and join us next week. But of course, come and join us again tomorrow. Sorry I didn't get around the room, by the way, folks. There's a lot to cover today. I'm going to sign off now and just say, until next time, folks, take care, take action, and be relentless. Cheers, folks. Thanks, guys. Cheers, bye.
Everyone, I've got to run too. I've got to run to close on the house that I just sold, but just want to wish everybody the best. Everybody here, whether you're just starting out or experiencing, there's the possibilities are endless for you. They're limitless. You can do it. Push through. This group's been great, man. I could never have achieved this stuff without you guys. So thank you, Nick, Mike, Dan, Drew. Thank you,
mate.
We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you, mate.
Before we wrap up, anyone got any questions? If so, just unmute and speak. No, Mike, anything you want to add?
I think the one, just to echo what Jeremy just really said, Nick's mentioned and Dan's mentioned, the power of this group is so important, and it's the peer group. I got on and on about it, and for me, it's been one of the most powerful things that I've done in my life in the last 2 years, is change my peer group. And I've taken people out of my life that I've known for years who don't serve me any purpose. And that's been a tough thing to do, but it's served me so fucking well. It really has. And this group is I view a lot of you guys on here that have been around for some time as part of my core peer group. It's so important to surround yourself with the right people in your personal life and your business life that are going to support you in terms of what you're doing.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well said.
Hopefully everyone can come to London in January, because I think it'll be a good chance to get together.
Dan's bringing his wallet.
Mike, I hear we're having a beer in the lobby bar.
Yeah.
Leave you two to it.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right.
Thank you.
Again, let's wrap up. Again, tomorrow, join us for the debrief and relaunch session as always. And next week we've got Mike Merrick and Don for similar format. But yeah, thank you to Jeremy, Dan, and Nick for this week. We'll speak with you soon. Until then, take care, take action, and be relentless.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, everyone. See you, everyone.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.